Oh, well, good morning, children, both young and old. We get busy this time of year. We're about to go into October. And the closer to Christmas it gets, the busier and busier we're going to be. Excuse me. Before we get started this morning reading out of the journals, I'd like to share something with you about Christmas. Christmas is celebrated at different times all over the world. Different countries have their own way of celebrating the Creator, celebrating the birth of Christ, bringing joy and happiness to one another. It's a very wonderful, pleasant time of year. And so this morning, in that spirit, I would like to share with you a journal from a different part of the world. And let's see here. Europe, Germany. Let's go to Australia this morning. Now, in Australia, they have what they call camps. So these are small communities that are in the back part of Australia in what they call the bush. And one morning, one of the boys was almost bitten by a crocodile. We were making a stop at an isolated backwater camp, and I knew it would be hard to spot in the bush, so we decided to drop down low and follow the waterway. We were weaving our way along and slowly looking for the place when all of a sudden, straight up out of the water came a huge crocodile after one of the boys. Now the boys, again, I call them the boys. Actually, they're the boys and the girls, but to make it easy, I call them the boys. He was a big sucker, and it scared the boys something terrible. It was about 11 feet long and mean looking. Crocs are dangerous. I've heard stories about people who get bitten by crocs and they're never the same again. Anyway, he startled the boys and they bolted and shot straight up into the air for at least 1,000 feet. And the bad part was I'd been ready to step out of the sleigh. We were coming to the camp, and I'd been ready to step out of the sleigh. And there I was with one foot on the floor of the sleigh and the other on the middle step. Had I not had hold of the mounting handle, there might have been a different Santa Claus next year, a new Santa. The boys are trained to complete my rounds if anything really bad goes wrong. It's not done as it is normally, but the mission would have been completed and presents would have been scattered on lawns and rooftops, but at least they would have been delivered. Where was I? Oh, yes. There we were, hanging straight up and down 1,000 feet in the air. Now, I'm not as agile as I used to be. And this wasn't like sliding down a one-story chimney or a two-story or even a three-story chimney. And the bag had slipped from the front seat to the back of the sleigh and was starting to creep over the edge. If it had fallen, Christmas would have been postponed that year. I would have been forced to explain to Leonard, who's my tailor, why we needed to make a new bag, and Betty, that's Mrs. Claus, would be most unhappy with me. She puts my lunch in that bag. Using all my strength, I pulled hard on the mounting assist handle and lunged for the bag, and I managed to grab it just before it fell out. I pushed it under the front seat and climbed back inside the sleigh. And we were still straight up and down 1,000 feet in the air. That's a scary thought. It took about 5 minutes of precious time to get the boys calmed down, but I managed to do it, and they seemed fine. However, my trouble wasn't over. It seems that when the boys jumped and started upward, my cap was blown off and was floating on top of the water next to the nose of a very angry crocodile who had missed his breakfast. Something had to be done, and quickly, or I would have found myself making deliveries in the daytime, and that just isn't done. It's not acceptable. Santa Claus does not make deliveries in the daytime. Turning around, we made a plan that I explained to the boys, and we started back down toward the water. stopping about 100 feet or so above the surface. We could see that old croc looking straight at us. And I knew he would make another try at the boys, but it didn't want to scare them, so I said nothing. Looking at them, however, I could tell they already knew. Anyway, taking hold of the assist handle with my right hand, I climbed out so my right foot was resting on the bottom runner of the sleigh. When I was ready, I gave the signal, and the boys headed straight down towards the surface at full speed. Let me pause here long enough to explain about our full speed. When we need to make up time or avoid an airplane or a fast-moving storm, we do what we call full speed. The boys go as fast as they can, and zip, we're out of there in a jiffy. It's really quite exciting. And the boys are really quite good at it, almost to the point of showing off sometimes. Of course, I have no way of knowing that for sure, but I can tell you they enjoy it. Many times during our rounds, we've had to make sharp turns to dip below trees, into canyons, move around so that we didn't hit things. But to the best of my recollection, there has never been a time when any of those who came before me had to make a power dive on a waiting crocodile. I know I certainly never have. We were, however, making one now, and we were streaking toward that old croc at lightning speed. Just at the right moment, the boys changed directions from straight down to straight up. The boys changed direction so quickly and sent the sleigh and me whipping towards the surface of the water. Their judgment of the distance had been perfect. Just as the runners touched the water, I leaned out and grabbed my cap, and in almost that same instant, the sled shot right back up into the air. Now, the croc had seen us coming and had timed his leap out of the water so he would be able to meet us in the air and finish his breakfast. Fortunately, his timing wasn't as good as ours, and he missed. But he was close enough that when I leaned out to grab my cap, there I was for a second. I was able to look him right in the eye. I still think to this day he winked at me before falling back into the water. It was scary. Anyway, we made the stop and continued on. I tied my cap to the right front of the candle lamp on the sleigh to let it dry, and I will have to be more careful from now on. I like making these rounds, but it's those little things that get you. I may ask Leonard to see if he can fix me up with a chin strap from a cap. Not sure how it would look, but it's worth looking into. Now, before we close today, children, I would like to tell you to look forward to Christmas, tell you to mind your mother and father, and do the best you can. I'll see you next week at the same time. Have a good week. Goodbye.